What if the destination you have been seeking with so much effort, with all your soul, was not at the end of a long road, but in the stillness that arises when the road itself dissolves? There is a silent pain that many carry, especially those who feel the world more deeply. It is the pain of feeling like a stranger in this reality, of carrying a sensitivity that the world often labels as weakness. It is the feeling that there is a song playing at a volume only you can hear, which at times leaves you feeling isolated in the midst of a crowd. This feeling of not belonging is not a flaw in your design. It is the first call from your soul, a sign that you are attuned to something more subtle, something that the cacophony of the modern world tries to drown out at all costs. This heightened awareness leads you on a search. There is a restlessness in the modern soul, a low, constant hum of longing that no external victory seems to silence. It is a thirst that the world's water cannot quench. You achieve the goal, and the emptiness returns. You acquire the object, and the novelty dissipates. This inner drought, this disquiet, is not a sign that you have failed. On the contrary, it is your most accurate spiritual compass, indicating that the nourishment you have been offered does not truly nourish. It is your soul remembering a source that your mind, conditioned by the world, has forgotten how to find. From an early age, we are taught to look outside ourselves. Society conditions us to believe that peace, worth, and happiness are products to be acquired. We look for peace in another city, for wisdom in another book, for validation in the eyes of another person. And so, life becomes a chase, a relentless search that, paradoxically, pushes us further and further away from what we desire most. As the great sage Hermes Trismegistus and other masters of antiquity knew, this external journey only expands the desert of inner emptiness. The truth, firm and compassionate, is that the search itself has become the barrier to the finding. You feel it in your body, a weariness that isn't of the body, but of the soul. A weight on the shoulders of one who carries the burden of a never-ending search. Herein lies the great secret, a truth whispered in the traditions of forgotten wisdom. You will find everything when you stop searching. The key is not to acquire more, but to allow yourself to unlearn the urgency, to unlearn the need to prove your worth, to unlearn the habit of living on the horizon, always on to the next step, the next goal. This is an invitation to a different kind of journey, a journey inward to the only place that has never abandoned you. Our time together will not be spent building another map that points outward. Maps are only useful for territory that is already known. What we will do is something different. It will be a space to recognize the subtle signposts that already exist within you, pointing the way back. They are 5 echoes of an ancient wisdom, 5 vibrational keys that invite you to withdraw your attention from the noise of the search and place it in the silence of your inner oasis. That place that has always been there, patiently waiting for you to grow tired of searching so that you may finally find. You know this feeling intimately, the one that creeps in during the silence that follows a great achievement. A goal is reached, the energy is celebrated, and for a moment, the world seems to settle. But soon after, it sets in, a chronic dissatisfaction, a hollow echo that resonates where there should be fulfillment. The victory has a taste of ashes, leaving a hunger you cannot name. It is a tightness in the chest, a feeling of what now? This is the first signpost. This experience, which may have caused you guilt or confusion, is not a sign that you are ungrateful or overly ambitious. It is the language of your spirit, showing you with disconcerting clarity that what you were searching for was not contained in the prize you just won. This experience does not reveal a flaw in your character, but rather a deep pattern of the human mind. We have been conditioned to live for the chase, and our very brain chemistry has adapted to this, dulling the joy of the present moment in favor of longing for the next. The revelation that emerges from this pain, a truth your soul already recognizes, is that the incessant search creates its own cycle of desire. The search becomes the barrier to arrival. The constant search, the ceaseless movement, is what prevents your soul from finally landing and recognizing that it is already home. The shadow of the search. Let's look at what hides behind this endless search. What do we truly fear if we stop running? For many, there is the fear of insignificance. The fear that without the search, without the achievements, we are just ordinary. There is the terror of facing an inner emptiness that we use the noise of the search to avoid hearing. The search becomes an identity, a way of telling the world, I am doing something, I am important. To stop searching, then, is a small death. It is the death of the ego that feeds on progress and victories. Welcoming this truth is the first step to freeing yourself from it. The pain is not the enemy. It is the part of you that still remembers. What if, for a moment, you allowed yourself a small, silent rebellion against this tyranny of the search? It is not about abandoning your dreams, but about finding sanctuaries of presence along the way. The invitation is for a subtle shift, a gesture of silent power. Every 2 hours, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just pause. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Take one deep breath, and as you exhale, release the need to want or to seek anything. For an instant, just one, be the space where nothing is lacking. This single conscious breath is a revolutionary act. It breaks the hypnotic spell of incessant thought and reminds your nervous system that peace is available now, not in some distant future. Create these small oases of presence in the desert of your daily life. The image is ancient because its truth is timeless. The mind behaves like a thirsty traveler in a vast desert, desperately running toward mirages that shimmer on the horizon. Each goal, each achievement, seems to be the oasis that will finally quench the thirst. But upon arriving, it dissolves into hot air and sand. The mind continues this exhausting marathon until, at last, with no strength left, it collapses. And it is in this moment of complete surrender, when the search ceases, when there is no more energy to take even one more step, that it finally realizes it has always carried within itself a well of pure, infinite water. The second signpost manifests as a noise, a mental storm that rages incessantly. It is the voice of the problem solver, the mind that never rests, that rehearses conversations, that plans the future and analyzes the past without stopping. You know this exhaustion, that of trying to find peace by thinking, of trying to organize the chaos of life with the same mind that generates the chaos. The noise is chaotic, repetitive, draining. It promises solutions, but only generates more questions and more anxiety. There is an almost unconscious belief that if you think hard enough, you will find the perfect answer. But what this constant chatter really does is obscure the ocean of deep silence that exists just beneath the agitated surface of your thoughts. In the ancient wisdom traditions, silence was never seen as an emptiness or an absence. To the sage Thoth, the scribe of the Egyptian gods, silence was the very womb of creation, the fertile void where everything germinates before taking form. It is a potential that awaits. Think of music. It is not just the notes that create it, but the sacred silence between them that gives them meaning, rhythm, and emotion. This space, which the modern world so fears and fills with distractions, is the source of all true power. Your soul longs for this silence. It recognizes it as its place of origin, a place of rest, nourishment, and limitless power. The resistance to silence. Why then do we resist it so much? Because in silence, there is nowhere left to run. In silence, the truths we hide from ourselves begin to whisper. The emotions we have suppressed come to the surface. We encounter the loneliness, the sadness, the anger that the noise of daily life helped us to ignore. The resistance to silence is the resistance to an intimate encounter with oneself. It is the fear of looking at the wounded and neglected parts. But the only way to heal these parts is to first sit with them, in the same room, in silence, and simply allow them to exist without judgment. Herein lies a truth that goes against everything we have been taught about productivity and action. Action born from noise, from the anxious and reactive mind, is an action that scatters energy and yields fragile results. True potency, the force that aligns reality around you, emerges from a balanced pause, from an action that springs from stillness. It is a movement that comes not from effort, but from deep alignment. Action born from silence is focused, resonant, and has the power to touch everything it transforms. It does not force doors open. It waits for them to open. Consider this then an invitation to a daily ritual, an act of reclaiming your inner sovereignty. The hermetic pause. For just 5 minutes of your day, find a place where you can sit immobile. Your only task, and the most profound one, is to do absolutely nothing. Do not try to calm the mind. Do not fight the thoughts that arise. Just observe. Allow them to come and go. With gentleness and patience, begin to feel the space between one thought and the next. This interval, this glimpse of pure silence, is your portal to the source. It is the return to your natural state of being. The image to hold in your heart is that of a great orchestra. Moments before the symphony begins, the conductor raises the baton, and a silence charged with potential fills the air. In that pause, all the strength, all the beauty, and all the emotion of the music to come already exist. That silence is not empty. It is pregnant with creation. Your inner stillness works in the same way. It contains the seed of all your most potent creations. It is the key. There is a particular pain in repetition, an exhaustion that comes from finding yourself in the same emotional places over and over again. It is the feeling of walking in circles inside your own mind, treading the same familiar corridors, knocking on the same doors that never open, and reaching the same disheartening conclusions. You follow the scripts handed to you by family, by culture, by education, and you wonder why your life seems to lack the expansion your soul knows is possible. This is the third signpost, the mental maps that, instead of guiding, imprison. These neural pathways, which psychology calls cognitive shortcuts, are well-worn tracks deepened in the mind for the purpose of conserving energy. But in the language of the soul, they are invisible cages. They are the beliefs you have accepted as absolute truths about who you are and how the world works. I am not good enough for this. Relationships are always difficult. I have to fight for everything. These ideas, often inherited through an invisible loyalty to the patterns of our ancestors, are repeated silently, day after day. They build the walls of your reality, blinding you to the infinite possibilities that exist beyond these known borders. They keep you safe, but the price of safety is freedom itself. Grieving the old map. Letting go of a map is not just an act of liberation, it is also an act of grief. Even if a map has led you to places of suffering, it was the only map you knew. There was a strange security in its predictability. To abandon it means to mourn the person you thought you were or were trying to be. It means grieving the certainties, even the painful ones. You must allow yourself to feel the sadness and fear of this loss. Welcoming the grief for the old self is what creates the fertile space for the new self to be born. There is only true light after traversing the shadow. The most liberating discovery, the one that sounds like an ancient key turning in a rusty lock, is that true expansion does not come from finding a better or more accurate map. It comes from the courage to let go of the old map completely. It is in this space of not knowing, in this unknown territory, that the terrain of life can finally reveal itself to you in a new and authentic way, unfiltered by the lens of the past. The invitation here is to a sacred inquiry, an intimate and daily dialogue with your own truth. Once a day, choose a belief, an assumption that you carry like a weight. Feel it in your body. Where does it live? In the tightness of your throat, in the weight in your stomach. Hold it in your awareness with gentleness. And then, with the curiosity of a child, ask your deepest self, what if the opposite of this is true? Do not rush to answer with the logic of the mind. Just hold the question. Let it echo in your inner silence. Allow the answer to arise not as a sentence, but as a new sensation, a new opening in your body. Remember the ancient explorers who, to discover new continents, had to navigate beyond the edge of their maps. They had to embrace the vast and frightening ocean of the unknown. In the same way, to discover the unexplored continents of your own soul, you need the courage to burn your outdated maps. It is an act of radical faith in your own inner compass, the intuition that always knew the way, even when your mind insisted on looking at the old, yellowed paper. The fourth signpost is not an event, but a subtle and persistent feeling that permeates your days. It is a feeling of being out of sync with the flow of life, as if you're marching to one rhythm and the world to another. It is the constant effort of pushing against an invisible current, a silent struggle that drains your energy and leaves you with a deep sense of metaphysical loneliness. In practice, this manifests as procrastination, self-sabotage, a feeling that simple tasks require an enormous amount of energy. You look around, and it seems everyone has found their stride, while you are still trying, unsuccessfully, to find yours. This feeling is not a sign that you are wrong, but rather that you are trying to impose a rhythm instead of listening to the one that already exists. There is a reason for this feeling, a truth described in ancient texts like the Kybalion. One of its fundamental principles, the law of vibration, teaches that nothing in the universe is at rest. Everything moves, everything pulses, everything has a frequency. From the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, everything participates in an immense cosmic symphony. Your own consciousness is not separate from this. It is a unique and precious instrument in this orchestra. Vibration is not an abstract concept. It is the feeling you get when you enter a room and sense that it is heavy or light. It is the instant resonance you feel with some people and the dissonance with others. The feeling of being out of sync is your most faithful guidance system, telling you that you're trying to play a note that is not in harmony with the greater music. Tuning your own instrument. Before you can hear the symphony of the universe, you must learn to listen to your own instrument, your body, your energy field. Your body sends you signals all the time. The tension in your shoulders, the knot in your stomach, the sudden fatigue. These are not inconveniences to be ignored or medicated. They are notes of your own song, indicating dissonance. Spending a few moments each day, just feeling your body without judgment, is the act of tuning your instrument. What is my body telling me now? Where is the energy flowing, and where is it blocked? Without this internal attunement, the music of the universe will always sound like distant noise. The revelation here is at once simple and transformative. When you cling rigidly to your plans, when your mind fixates on the need to control every outcome, you are, in fact, creating dissonance. You are playing your own frantic melody with so much force and insistence that you become deaf to the symphony that surrounds you and of which you are a part. The struggle does not come from the universe, but from your resistance to its flow. The universe is not against you. It is just waiting for you to stop fighting so it can carry you. The practice here is one of the simplest and yet most profound: attunement. It requires no effort, only a conscious surrender of your attention. For a few moments of your day, shift your focus from your to-do list and tune in to a natural rhythm. Observe the way the morning sunlight fills your room, slowly, without hurry. Feel the pattern of your own breath, the gentle wave that rises and falls in your chest without your command. Allow your inner rhythm, often rushed and anxious, to soften and align with this natural cadence. Think of the image of a surfer before the sea. They do not create the waves, nor do they try to fight them. To try to paddle against the force of the ocean would be exhausting and futile. The skilled surfer spends time in silence, observing, feeling the pulse of the sea. They wait patiently, not passively, but actively. They feel the swell that is coming, the one with the right strength. And when it arrives, they do not force it. They align with its energy and allow it to carry them in a powerful, effortless glide. You do not need to create the flow of your life. You just need to stop fighting, listen to the rhythm, and learn to glide with it. The final signpost is the most subtle of all, and for that very reason, the most powerful. It reveals itself in the pain of total identification with every thought, every emotion, and every story your mind tells. It is the experience of feeling completely drowned in your own emotional waves, of believing that you are your anger, your sadness, or your anxiety. This fusion leaves you with no room to breathe, with no inner sanctuary to return to. You become the storm instead of the vast, serene sky that contains it and watches it pass. For people of high sensitivity, this pain is even more acute. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is a high-precision radar. But without the tool of the witness, the radar becomes overloaded, picking up everything without a center to return to. From the most ancient traditions, like those that reach us through the Book of Thoth, to the teachings of Eastern sages, there is talk of a silent inner observer. This is not a poetic idea, but a real dimension of your consciousness. It is the part of you that is aware that you are thinking, the part that notices that an emotion has arisen. It is the silent, unmoving center of the turning wheel, the true king of your self-awareness. To find this place is not to create something new, but to remember what has always been there, patiently waiting behind the veil of mental noise. What the witness reveals. Being the witness does not mean that life will become only peace and light. On the contrary, the witness is what gives you the strength to look at your own shadow without disintegrating. From the perspective of the witness, you can finally welcome your anger, your pain, your fear, not as enemies to be conquered, but as exiled parts of yourself that are coming home to be healed. The witness creates a safe space for the pain to express itself and dissolve. It neither represses it nor indulges in it. It holds it with compassion and courage, like a mother holds a crying child. Here, an unexpected turn occurs on the path. Many fear that observing their own mind will make them cold or distant. The truth, however, is the exact opposite. Stepping back from the drama of the mind does not disconnect you from life. On the contrary, it connects you to it on a level of depth you never imagined. By ceasing to be the actor consumed by the role, you become the very consciousness that witnesses the entire play. You begin to see the stage, the other actors, and the scripts with clarity. And from this place of broad vision, you can finally interact with life authentically and freely. The invitation, then, is for you to create in your day a witness window, a small and sacred interval of 5 minutes. Sit in silence and simply allow yourself to observe the flow of your mind as if you were watching clouds passing in the sky. Your only task is to observe with no other objective, without labeling thoughts as good or bad, without clinging to those that please you, without rejecting those that cause you discomfort. Judgment is what gives energy to thought. By withdrawing judgment, you stop feeding the drama. This simple act of observing without judging is what begins to create the sacred space between you and your mind. The image to hold for this practice is that of the moon in the night sky. The moon perfectly reflects the intense, fiery light of the sun, but it is not burned or agitated by it. It remains serene, silver, and cool. In the same way, your consciousness can learn to reflect all of life's experiences, the pain, the joy, the chaos, the peace, without being consumed by them. You learn to be the calm mirror that contains everything, yet remains untouched in its essence. You have always been this mirror. You are just remembering how to polish its surface. To seek less, as we have seen, is not an act of passivity. It is an act of profound power. It is to withdraw your energy from the infinite chase and invest it in the only thing that is real and permanent, the silent presence that dwells at your center. It is to stop digging wells in arid lands and finally to turn and drink from the spring that has always flowed, inexhaustibly, within you. We have walked a silent and deep path together. We saw how the courage to let go of the mirage of the endless search allows us at last to arrive. We saw how inner stillness is the true cradle of all potent and aligned action, and how resistance to it is the fear of truly meeting ourselves. We learned that letting go of the mental maps that imprison us involves grief, but allows us to discover the vastness of who we really are. We felt how attuning to the universal pulse takes us out of the struggle and into the flow of grace, beginning with attuning to our own body. And finally, we remembered that the inner witness is the silent throne of our sovereignty, the place from which we can hold all of life's experiences, both the light and the shadow, without being destroyed by them. This is the alchemy. The ancient Hermetic truths and the discoveries of neuroscience deep down are singing the same song. Presence, stillness, and awareness are not just beautiful ideas. They are gestures that reconfigure the pathways of your mind and spirit, revealing the abundance that has always been present, just waiting to be acknowledged. You have felt this before. That pull in your chest, that whisper in a moment of silence, that sudden sense of a vaster reality just behind the veil. It wasn't your imagination, it was a memory. The final invitation, then, is to a transformative ritual, a way to bring this journey into your life, into your body. Choose just one of these practices that resonated most with your soul. The Hermetic pause, the sacred inquiry, the witness window. Commit to it for the next 7 days. Not as a task to be accomplished with perfection, but as an act of devotion to your own soul, a gesture of returning home. It is an act of spiritual sovereignty, where you silently declare that your inner peace is more important than any external demand. Just observe, with curiosity and without judgment, the subtle shifts that will begin to happen in your perception, in your peace. Embrace the alchemy of not seeking and witness with a gentle reverence how the oasis you are desperately searching for in the outside world reveals itself as the eternal spring from which you drink. The spring that becomes, at last, your compass, your strength, and your guide for all of life. If this journey resonated in your spirit, leave a silent acknowledgement in the comments. An affirmation, not for the world, but for your own soul. To continue on this journey of remembrance and awakening, we invite you to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And remember, it's not about what you want, but about who you are.